Welcome to Mobile Legends!
This one skill set will add a whole new dimension to your communication skills. What am I talking about? Hand gestures. You see, just like with your vocabulary when you speak, you can improve and increase your vocabulary. You can do the same thing with your gesture vocabulary. When you learn how to use your hand gestures, your gestures support the things that you say. Notice how that's better than... The powerful thing about hand gestures is that it supports the things that you say. The easiest way to expand your gesture vocabulary is to think to yourself, how can I use my hands to describe the things that I'm saying? For example, last night I went to dinner and I walked up to a door and then I grabbed the door and I kept pushing it and I couldn't open the door for some reason. I couldn't understand why I couldn't push the door. And then I realized, it's not a push door, it's one of those pull doors. Notice how I use my hands to bring that moment to life? A lot of my students say, Vin, I talk about things that are really boring. How can I bring it to life? You can bring it to life with your body language, with your hand gestures. And that door thing actually happened. Craig, can we roll it? Gonna get some Thai food, and it's classic. Communication is what I say.
How do I wake up early every day? Well, you have this little thing here called a phone. And what happens is you can go to the clock on it and set what's called an alarm. And that alarm will go off at the time that you set it for. And then what you do is you go from a state of unconsciousness where your eyes are closed and you're not really aware of your surroundings to a state of consciousness where your eyes are open, you're able to use your senses to be aware of your surroundings. That is called being awake. And so when you set the alarm at a time that is before the time that most people would wake up, you have woken up early.
The reason Beast, me, Logan, others do well is 99% of our content is entertainment or education. 1% of our content is eat my chocolate, eat my Beast burger, drink my Prime juice, drink empathy wines. But this organization and every one of its competitors and contemporaries completely dismiss the value of organic social content. They over-worry about measuring its value. If you're not interested in making content that actually brings value to the other person, not directly correlated to you selling a six-pack, how the hell do you think you're going to build a community? You know how many communities a salesperson has built? 0.
Speed kills the best companies. Spotify killed Napster. Netflix killed Blockbuster. Wikipedia killed the encyclopedia. The faster you are, the greater the advantage you have. Speed wins. You should be taking school seriously. Not because school necessarily matters, not because school necessarily is the best path for you, but because it's something that you committed to. It's a responsibility you have. And if you want to achieve anything in life, if you want to make progress as a human being, you have to be disciplined enough to show up for your responsibilities. I get a lot of guys that say, oh, should I even try in school? It's a complete waste of time, blah, blah, blah. It's not a waste of time in the fact that you have an opportunity to practice the discipline of doing things you don't want to do. It's an opportunity to fulfill a responsibility that you're not necessarily interested in. And that's a very important skill because there are going to be things on your journey that require your attention, that require your effort that you don't care about, that you don't want to do, and you have to be willing to do them. The clock is ticking. Your story is going to be over one day. There's going to come a day where the last words of the final chapter are going to be written and the book will close. What do you want your story to say? Is your story going to write that you left a positive impact on this world, that you helped other people, that you did your very best to leave the world better than you found it? Or is your story going to write that you sat around for 80 years and did absolutely nothing? That you just sat around living for short-term pleasures and cheap dopamine and tickled yourself for 80 years until you died? What's your story gonna say? And a better question is, if your story ended today, what would it say? Are you happy with what it would say? If you're not, then I would do something about it. I would drop everything and start trying to write your story the way you want it to be written.
Don't worry. One day we're gonna sit down together and say, it was hard, but we made it.
People act like personal development or self-improvement is this super complex thing and I just don't know where to start. It's like, yeah, you do. You can identify certain areas of your life that could be better. And simply because you can identify those things, you got something to do. If you're overweight, you gotta lose weight. You gotta get in shape. If you're broke, you gotta get some money. Get a job, start a business, do whatever you gotta do. You know what is going to make your life better. You know that if you were in shape, your life would be better. You know that if you had more money, your life would be better. You know that if you weren't in debt, your life would be better. Start working on these things. And you know where to start. I'm broke. I don't have a job. Where do I start? Go to Indeed. Start applying for jobs. I'm overweight. I don't know what to do. Go for a walk. You know what to do. What would you tell somebody else that was in your position? That's the answer. Go do that. Are you gonna do it or not? Are you gonna start the business or not? Are you gonna start losing weight or not? You gotta shit or get off the pot. Stop trying to convince yourself that you're gonna do something one day in the future. Stop trying to convince yourself that there's this golden piece of information out there that if you find it, you're gonna be able to start. Nobody who's actually serious about their goals says that they're gonna do them later. They just start doing them. So you either need to start doing it or just admit that you're not actually going to do it and move on.
3 things I will not do as a neuroscientist in order to protect my brain. Number 1 is go on my phone when I wake up in the morning. Whenever you wake up in the morning, your brainwaves transition from theta to alpha. This means that our subconscious mind is in a more programmable state. So the content that you consume during this time will have a greater impact on your mindset and messes up our dopamine for the rest of the day so that we continue to check our phones. Number 2 is negative self-talk. What you say to yourself matters, and the more you put that into your brain, the more it gets wired in. And what's wired in is what we manifest. And number 3 is eat highly processed foods. There's plenty of science now to support that what you eat impacts your brain. But especially highly processed foods lead to brain aging. And we don't want that.
One of the key pillars of intermittent fasting is that for the first hour after you wake up, and potentially for longer, to not ingest any food. Okay? The second major pillar that's well supported by research is that for the 2 and ideally 3 hours prior to bedtime, you also don't ingest any food, or liquid calories for that matter.
What was the best financial advice that you've ever received throughout your lifetime? You know, I was very lucky because, as I told you earlier, I started washing cars and boats for very wealthy people. And what I found is the wealthier the people, the more they wanted to help me as a young kid. And maybe they saw a part of themselves in me and they wanted to give me that value. And what they were telling me back then, which is even more relevant today, is don't count other people's money. And so many people are looking at other people and they're seeing things that really aren't real. People get so caught up in what other people have and keeping up with the Joneses, and they're buying things and spending money on things they really can't afford. So much of what the young generation sees today all over the place, it's fake. You start comparing yourself to other people, there's always going to be someone richer, there's always going to be someone faking it more. It'll make you feel insecure. Because you're going to go right now, I could go with you on Instagram and show you 1,000 kids that look like they're doing great. And it could make you feel bad about yourself. Worry about yourself. Go at your own pace and it'll work out fine. Beautiful answer. Your family and friends may not get it right now, and that's all right. They're going to ask questions, they're going to make fun of you, and that is okay. Because you're going to make them understand. You're going to make them understand by going out and getting the result you want. They're going to understand real quick when you have the body they want, the bank account they want, the car they want, the house they want, the family they want, the life they want. It's going to go from why are you doing that to how did you do that. You can try to convince them all you want. You can talk to them until you're blue in the face. But the fact is, the only thing that's really going to convince them that what you're doing is right is when you get the result. Nothing you can say to these people, no amount of convincing is going to speak louder than you having an undeniable stack of evidence that shows exactly why you're doing what you're doing.
Good times create weak people. Weak people create bad times. Bad times create strong people. Strong people create good times. That's the history of the world over and over and over again.
If you think that working overtime all the time and just working hard is what you're laying on the altar of loyalty to your employer and it's somehow going to pay off, all it's going to do is repeat itself over and over in whatever company you choose to work. It does not serve you. Your reward will be nothing except an expectation to keep up the pace.
If you're in your 20s, here are 3 things I wish I knew now that I'm 30. Number 1, this is to document more. And this is literally coming from someone who makes content for a living. I'm not talking about taking photos for Instagram or making content, but literally just documenting your life for yourself. Things like journaling more, taking photos just for you, sitting down, talking to a camera even 20 minutes every birthday. Such cool things you can look back on. I wish I would have done that more for sure. Number 2, if you can't change something, accept it and move on. Don't waste time wishing you had better cards cards, play the hand that you're dealt. It's easy to wish you were taller, you had more money, things in your past went differently. As hard as it is, if you cannot change it, it's not gonna serve you. Number 3, you don't do things for the current you do things for the future you. Investing in your 20s isn't just about money, but investing in your personal happiness.
What if you did it? What if you actually did it? How do you think you'd feel? I mean, just for a minute, think about what your life would look like if you hit every goal that you have. If you actually went out and did everything you said you were going to do. What would your life look like?